You're good to go, sir.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you for joining us for the April 13th, 2021 meeting of the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen. This day is also known as Alderman Skidmore's birthday. So happy birthday, Mr. Skidmore. We are sure that gray hair does not show your age. We're absolutely sure of that. We're going to begin as we typically do. That's our prayer and pledge. So please join me in standing. And please join me in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together, and thank you for this opportunity to serve you, and thank you for the many opportunities we have to serve you, and thank you for the wonderful gifts, talents, and abilities you've given us. Help us to use them to do your work. Help us use them to do your work, not just here tonight, but as we leave from here. We especially want to thank you for all the benefits that you've provided to us, especially the people who protect us here, the people who protect us far away, and as well as just the wonderful city, state, and country that we live in. We want your special attention, though, on a couple folks, and those are Kelly Stewart, Hallie Bridgewater, the McGray family, and David Christian. Please look after those folks, those families. And please remind us to do your work again here, as well as when we go from here. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know you want to sing now. So a couple of things on the agenda. We need to change the presentation from the Beach High School wrestling team to a presentation from our chairman for the Deer Committee. I'm also going to ask that we remove item D from the consent agenda. D, and we would take that up as an individual item. And I'll entertain that motion now. I need somebody making a motion that we can look at. Oh, I'm sorry, Annette. You're absolutely right. Annette, please call the roll.
Okay. Brown.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Here.
Dixon.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Hayes.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Petrelli.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Please fix it.
Skidmore.
Here.
Waters.
Here.
And Clary.
Here.
All 13 present.
Thank you, Annette. Again, I'm going to entertain a motion to accept our agenda as it was provided to you in your packet, with the exception of change the presentation from Beach High Senior Wrestling Team to our chairman of the Deer Committee. Move item D off the consent agenda.
I so move.
And that's it. So we've got a motion.
So move.
Okay. We've got a, I'm sorry, what was the other one?
Second.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second from Alderman Collins and Alderman Waters. Oh, and also need to acknowledge item G, and that is it has not gone through the standard 2-week delay. Alderman Collins, Alderman Waters, do you agree with those?
Yes.
As part of your motion?
I would like to discuss item G separately.
Let's go ahead. You're up.
I would like for someone to speak to the urgency of not having it go through the 2-week period. I want to make sure we're doing that appropriately.
Let's go with Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Alderman Collins. And as you're on this board longer and longer, you'll notice that is a pretty routine matter to waive the 2-week. There are some specific reasons that I would recommend to waiving the 2-week. First of all, it was heard in Public Works tonight and received a unanimous in favor support. This ordinance is almost identical, except some of the whereases that I drafted to the ordinance that the mayor put forward on February the 9th. And that ordinance did go through Finance Committee. So there's nothing materially different in this ordinance. It's still $500,000 to try to get more paving done in every ward in the city. And also the urgency is that the Rogers Group is preparing their schedules, and the earlier that we can decide this and get this to them, the quicker they can pave roads in each of our wards. So again, it's a redundant ordinance that the Finance Committee has already heard, and I'll be glad to answer, and I'm sure Robert tonight will, any questions that you have regarding the finances, but it's almost identical to what the mayor proposed at February the 9th. So without material difference and because of the Rogers Group to get them on their schedule, I think it's pertinent. This is not something that we don't do routinely. I mean, there have been times, and Mr. Bradley, I think, can address this as well, where an ordinance has bypassed the 2 weeks for the first reading, and then before the second reading, it would go to the committee. So I would fully assume that if this ordinance passes tonight, that it would go to the Finance Committee in 2 weeks at its next meeting and be discussed. So at that time, the Finance Committee could take a position on the ordinance. So I'm just asking that it be moved for the first reading with the understanding that the Finance Committee will have an opportunity to look at this ordinance again, as it already has once before. So does that address your questions, or do you have any additional ones?
I believe that's adequate. Yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Hayes.
Thank you, Mayor. I wonder, Alderman Collins, that's a good question, and I appreciate it very much. I know that all of us want to see our roads paved. I wonder if it would make any difference to any of the board if I would make an amendment at the appropriate time that any monies that we put towards paving, supplemental extra paving this year, that it would not be encumbered in the new July 1 budget. I am planning to make that amendment, and I don't know if that makes any difference on your vote right now, but thank you for the opportunity to let you know that.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda with those changes.
So move.
Any other discussion? So here's what the motion was: to adopt the agenda that was presented. The change would be that the presentation is from the Deer Committee, not Beach Senior High School. We're acknowledging item G in waiving the 2-week rule, and that we're removing item D from the consent agenda to be considered on its own. I heard a beep. I'm not sure if that means somebody wants to discuss. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
No.
Campbell,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Cunningham,
No.
Dixon,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Petrelli,
No.
Robertson,
Yes.
Skidmore,
Yes.
Waters,
Yes.
and Clary.
Yes.
Okay, 10 ayes, 3 noes.
Thank you, Annette. That passes with majority vote. Next, we have a presentation from our chairman of our Deer Committee, Oliver Berry. Oliver, go ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm pretty sure that y'all invite me to come and speak when your things are slow and you need something to have a good laugh about. So here I am again. To give you a little, first, let me tell you what we need is we need people from each ward to represent that ward on the Deer Committee. I have asked for, I've gotten in touch with all the previous members, and one has contacted me back, Charlie Floyd, who said he did not want to be involved in the Deer Committee. I don't remember what ward he was from. Okay, he does not want to be on a part of it. Peg Petrelli contacted me back. She's Ward what, 1, Peg? She still wants to be on. 6?
She's one.
Anyway, Peg wants to be involved. Charlie Floyd does not want to be involved. I would like to be involved again, and my term has expired, so I would need to be reappointed from Ward 2. Gerald Barrett is the mayor's appointee, and he is still current and would like to continue. his term on the deer committee. So we need appointees from every ward other than those. A short history of the deer committee. We met for 2 years, tried to work out a plan to see if we were overpopulated by deer. We had a flyover survey that revealed we had about 16.9 deer per square mile, which is similar to what the state of Tennessee has. And at that time, the USDA declined to do a hunt because we're not overpopulated by deer, according to them. We've had a couple of other surveys, drive-through surveys, that one survey pointed out that there were no deer in Hendersonville. They couldn't find them on that night. I think they were all over at my house eating that time. The USDA did say that they would decline to participate in any kind of hunt, and they're the government agency who does those kinds of hunts until Hendersonville at the time had a deer feeding ordinance. And now we have a permanent deer feeding ordinance, but we need to enforce that deer feeding ordinance. And I've had many, many people, I think the city sends me people when they are upset and they want to do something about the deer. So they send them to me and I give them the whole history and what they can do. And most of them say, yeah, my neighbor feeds the deer, but gosh, I just don't want to turn them in. So we need education about turning in your neighbors who feed the deer. We need education about why it's bad to feed the deer. We need education about how you, as a homeowner, can remove deer from your property and chase them away. There are several ways to do it. We need education about if you're overwhelmed by deer and you just want to have some sort of a hunt, you can do that. And I won't go into details, but it's a TWRA depredation permit is what you get. So we need lots of education on how to deal with the deer issue that we have in Hendersonville. And honestly, out of all the aldermen who are present, I would bet that if you survey your ward and ask everybody in the ward what their opinion is of what to do about the deer, about half will say, kill them all. The other half will say, I love the deer. Please don't do anything about them. They're so beautiful. So when you come up for re-election, do you want half of the people in your ward mad at you and ready to put you out of business? That's the first question you want to deal with. And so you're probably not going to okay a hunt. So education is what we need. And that's what I want the deer committee to do in the future. Work on that. We need to work with the city IT department to put things on the website, the city website, that teach us how to deal with deer in the city. I love the deer. I think they're beautiful. They come through my yard every evening on their way to the lake, and I don't feed them. They have plenty to eat in my yard without me feeding them. So that's where we stand. That's where I would like to go. That's my vision for what the deer committee should be doing, and that's my report. So I can take any questions you might have.
Alderman Waters.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. Do you mind going over? I was one of the first back on the deer committee with you and some other people. I think Alderman one, I think she was on there with us. But anyway, can you just briefly tell us about this no feed ordinance? So refresh our memory and everything.
Yes, we
and then number two, and then I'll leave you alone.
I'm sorry.
Discuss the liability exposure. You know, we talked about liability many, many times. Do you mind doing that for me?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank
okay.
you.
The no feed ordinance was enacted, don't remember the dates, 5 years ago. We had it that ran for a couple of years and then it sunsetted. So it went away. And after pestering by the deer committee, we reinstated it. And what that ordinance says is you cannot feed deer on the ground. You cannot have a deer feeder. You can have a bird feeder, but it must be hung away from where deer would get to it. If your neighbors turn you in, the police show up, they're going to give you a warning the first time, and then on the second occurrence, and they will also the police are also supposed to give you something, and this would involve more education, a pamphlet that says, here's why you should not feed the deer. The second offense, there's going to be and someone might refresh my memory, I think it's a $75 or $80 fine. And then after that, there's $100 and something fine. And then they continue to fine you as you violate the ordinance. Liability, according to a law passed by Congress in 1947, the city would have no liability for anything that we do, nor would the USDA have any liability for coming in and having a hunt.
Alderman Waters, thank you. Alderman Petroleum.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify, and I appreciate all the work that Oliver has done on this committee, because it's been quite a journey. When I was on the committee, I started prior to being an alderman, and then because we could not fulfill the position with anybody in Ward 1, I just kind of stayed on after I became an alderman. So while I do plan to stay involved with the committee, I do not wish to be a member. I don't think that's inappropriate. So it's appropriate. So we do need to fulfill that committee member from Ward 1. Thank you.
Alderman Petroleum, thank you. Alderman Edwards.
Yes, I just want to say, Mr. Berry, thank you very much for your service and taking a leadership position in this. It's a very difficult situation. It's a no-win situation, but we certainly appreciate all you've done. That's all I had to say, and I'll see you tomorrow morning at Rotary.
Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Dixon.
I echo Alderman Edwards. Mr. Berry, I know that this is a tough spot you're in, but your vision for the moving forward with this committee is exactly my vision, and I applaud you that we're thinking on those same lines. Mm-hmm. And if there is anything that I can do, please let me know. I'll be getting you a name for Ward 4 in the next couple days.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you, Chairman Oliver. I just want to say thank you. And also I'd like to let you know that I will be glad to get you the paperwork to re-up you on the committee for another 3 years, because you've done excellent work for the last 5 years. And I certainly do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to constituents across our city and explain to them why they should not be feeding the deer and the concerns about the deer herd in general in our city, and all your previous work and all your future work. I certainly do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Campbell. Alderman Hayes.
Thank you. Thank you, Barry Oliver. Appreciate your taking the leadership here. I can promise you that Alderman Collins and I have somebody for you. We're going to put on that committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hayes. Oliver, do you feel comfortable, explaining the consequences of feeding deer?
Most of the things that we feed the deer have too much carb or too much protein or too much of something. Like if you give them apples, that's too much carbs. Their stomach changes from season to season so that it digests sticks and twigs in the wintertime, because that's what they can eat. That's what's available to eat. And then they can eat hay and grass and those kinds of things and leaves in the summertime, because that's what's available to them during that time. They fill up and fatten up during the summertime, and in the wintertime they get very skinny, and that's when people really worry about their health. And that's just their natural state, because there's less to eat and they eat less and their stomach chemistry is less. So if we're feeding them hay in the wintertime, that's bad for them and could become toxic and kill them. So those are the issues. And even the food that we give them, little old ladies coming out with a barrel full of apples, and a wheelbarrow full of apples is what we're faced with in the city. That is bad for them even in the summertime. So,
Oliver, thank you. One more item, Alderman Petroleum.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to echo Oliver's sentiments that even folks with the best of intentions of feeding deer, you are actually killing them. There's just no softer way to put that. I mean, after 5 years with this committee, we've learned that Also, when folks are feeding deer, we learned this from the USDA. Folks are pulling them off of their migration trail. And once you do that, that's when they start to depart off of their main thoroughfare. And as you know, they follow the lake a
Yes,
lot.
that's another problem with feeding them. Gets them off
And-
their natural wandering.
Correct. And then what happens is when you have one neighbor who enjoys the deer, the neighbors on either side do not appreciate the deer eating their hosta and other expensive plants. And it really just adds to the problem. So the best thing that the city could do in a very passive way is to please not feed the deer. Just leave them do their natural migration. Thank you. Thank you, Oliver.
Alderman Petroleum, thank you. Oliver, thank you so much. Thank you for your service and thank
Okay.
you for coming up here tonight.
All right, thank you. Good night.
We have no public hearings. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from March 23rd, 2021. We have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second from Alderman Robertson. All those in favor of approving the minutes from March 23rd, 2021, as presented in your packet, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
Thank you, Annette. That passes unanimously. Tina, am I correct that we still don't have anybody signed up for citizen comments online?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you. We have no signed up for citizen comments here. Next, we have ordinance and resolutions. Items A, B, C, and D are part of our consent. Items A, B, and C are part of our consent agenda. Item A is second reading of ordinance 2020-39, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 9, Chapter 1, concerning peddlers and solicitors. Item B is second reading of ordinance 2021-10. This is an ordinance amending the budget ordinance 2020-20 and appropriating the amount of $16,500 for the police department to purchase the REC 2019 Harley-Davidson police motorcycle currently in their possession. Item C is resolution 2021-18, a resolution authorizing the transfer of $2,500 from the special project account golf course HVAC to the special project account dog park renovations. I entertain a motion. Alderman Robertson.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion from Alderman Robertson, a second from Alderman Edwards. We can discuss these. It's typically that we put it on the consent agenda because there's likely is not going to be any opposition or discussion. Alderman Robertson, go ahead.
And I guess I'll address this to Chairman Brown on the peddlers and solicitors. Where should citizen complaints be registered on peddlers and solicitors? What department in the city are they supposed to contact if they feel that a solicitor is not registered or is outside the hours of proper operation?
Well, I would say if they're outside the hours of proper operations, that would be the Hendersonville Police Department. If they're not registered, which I've had solicitors come to my door before, and I've asked them whether they have filed for a permit and are registered, I think those permits are still issued at the front desk, if I'm correct. Is that the mayor's nodding yes? So if they don't have a solicitor's permit, you could send them there, I guess, to get that. Annette, you're looking like you want to say something. Okay, I better listen to you. I want to listen to Annette.
Actually, I do the solicit, the
Okay.
peddler's permits now back in finance.
Okay, so they'd have to go to finance to get the permit. If they're not permitted, then go there. But I would say if they're outside the governance, then you call the police department.
That is correct. I notify the police department whenever I issue one of those after they've been approved. I notify them so they have record of who has been issued a permit.
The reason I asked Chairman Brown is I received several complaints over the last 2 days from Autumn Creek. And there was a solicitor that was way past dark. So that helps me in that. Thank you. And thank you, Chairman Brown.
What you all also can't see is Commander Daniel also shaking his head, one of our police commanders. In some cases, the sensible thing to do is call the police department. Alderman Peterson.
Yeah, I had a question on item C.
Go ahead.
The $2,500 for dog park renovations, what is that for exactly?
Alderman Brown, you want to take that one?
Yes, I can't tell you exactly, but I believe it is for reseeding and doing some work in the dog park that needs done every year. We actually have two dog parks, a small dog park and a big dog park. One of them gets wore down. They have to move the dogs to the other park. And they do this, they kind of flip flop back and forth. And that just helps Mr. Gilly keep that park going. And I'm sure Andy's on there if he wants to add anything to that, but it's basically just for general maintenance.
Alderman Peterson.
Wouldn't that already be in the park budget for general maintenance of the dog park?
Mr. Gilly.
I can speak to that. Yes, sir. I can speak to that. What we had a situation where we had a huge hole develop that we're having to do some reconstruction. And we're also wanting to put up a second fence to separate the large dog park into two, where we can flip flop those occasionally to let the grass grow in the large dog park. So no, this is not just general maintenance. This is kind of a attempt to make improvements.
This wasn't caused by the recent flooding, was it?
Luckily, we had done some of the reseeding and field work prior to the flooding. So we're having to do some more work because of the flooding, but we were already in process.
Okay, thank you, Director.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Mr. Gilly, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. We're voting on A, B, and C. Is that right?
That's right.
I'm sorry, I got lost somewhere. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I had. Thank you.
All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items, which are A, B, and C, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petroleum,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
That passes unanimously. Thank you, Annette. Next, we have item D. This is Resolution 2021-19, a resolution authorizing the transfer of $31,690 from special project account golf course paving to supplemental paving. This was part of the consent agenda. We pulled it off. Alderman Brown, would you like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve, a second from Alderman Petroleum. Alderman Robertson, do you have a question, or do we need to go to Alderman Hayes? Alderman Robertson.
Hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I think Chairman Cunningham has an amendment. Am I correct, Chairman Cunningham?
That's correct.
Let's go to Chairman Cunningham.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Alderman Robertson. I'd like to make an amendment to instead of putting it in the paving budget, and I'm not sure how to word this exactly, but there was some hail damage and snow damage to the golf cart barn out in the golf course. I'd like to see if we can transfer those funds into the general golf course fund. And Robert or Andy may be able to speak to this in depth, especially Andy.
Robert, do you have an idea there? If not, we'll go to Andy.
Yes, we've got an account that we were using for some other items called golf course special projects, but that would be suitable if assuming that this stated the intent, like the purpose, rather than just saying special projects, obviously.
Will you be able to use it under golf course special projects for the intent that seems to be in mind here?
Yes, assuming the amendment stated so.
Okay. So Alderman Cunningham, help me out here. What I'm thinking about, excuse me, Robert, do you know the line item number, or is it all that important?
It's not terribly.
Okay.
I know it if you'd like it, but
there wouldn't be any confusion if we leave the line item out, would it?
It's the only one of its kind.
Gotcha. Okay. So what we're looking at doing is changing the text. Help me follow along with me, Alderman Cunningham. is changing the text from the point that it says to the supplemental paving line item. We will change that to golf course special projects line item.
Yes, and then we
Robert?
could,
Okay. Robert, does that make sense?
It does to me.
Any other concerns about that? We'd also would cross out everything else to the period. So here's what that paragraph would read. That funds in the amount of $31,690 is transferred from the special project account, golf course paving line item to the golf course special projects line item.
correct.
And I second that motion or amendment.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Alderman
And-
Cunningham makes a motion to amend. Alderman Robertson seconds that. Andy, any concerns about that as far as the way I worded that?
No, sir, I don't. I think that sounds good to me.
Okay, want to make sure we're able to do what the intent is to do with that. Alderman Cunningham, you still have the floor.
Okay, that's my amendment. I mean, I don't have any more discussion unless Andy or Robert has anything to add to it, or Mayor, if you do.
Okay, doesn't look like it. I feel like we can go ahead and vote on this amendment. I don't see anybody here nor there. Alderman Skidmore.
Yeah, thank you. Just have a quick question to Steve. Alderman Brown, how do you feel about this? I mean, it's basically changing the whole ordinance.
Feel fine. I think it's a good amendment. We've had some damage there. It was talked about moving to paving before the actual damage came. So I think it's a good way to spend that money is fixing that golf shed back up. So
okay, I don't know. I saw that you were the sponsor, and basically I don't know whether I'll support it. But at the same time, it's changing the whole ordinance as itself, and it would be different. I mean, obviously it is different, but you know what I'm saying, under the parliamentary procedure, if an ordinance is changed dramatically, then it has to without the approval of the board, at the agenda level, we shouldn't even be discussing it. But I'm not one to be such a strict I used to be strict on the rules, but just,
If you're addressing me on that,
yeah, yes, sir. I was just commenting,
Well-
making just a general comment. I'm not saying whether I'm,
yeah, I understand. I mean, I'm fine with it. I would just have to say that we're not following the rules a whole lot anymore because we're breaking the 2-week rule almost every other week. So
that's why, yeah.
So, I'm good on this though, because it's just $31,000 and we know exactly where it's going and what it's going for. So.
Okay, fair enough, man.
Yeah, and Alderman Skidmore, I sort of see your point that we're changing what was presented to us. It's not like we're just amending or just altering it. However, the way I look at it is the amount of money, if it were more significant, I think I'd be more likely to agree with you. And also, if we were changing where the money were coming from and where it's going, I think I'd absolutely agree with you. But I appreciate you bringing that up then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Edwards.
Yeah, I had a question. So what kind of damage was done to the shed out there?
Probably the best person is Andy Gilly.
Andy, yeah.
Sorry, we had about 6 inches of snow and ice on the roof. It buckled a couple of trestles and the roof, and we're still waiting for confirmation from insurance. Marshall and Mr. Bradley can probably speak to. I can tell you what the damage is. They can speak more to where we are in the process at this point.
Yeah, that was my question. If we had an insurance claim pending.
We're trying, and we're looking at the possibility of appealing what the decision has been. Obviously, that decision was not favorable to us, but it's work that I think we all agree needs to be done.
Okay. Say no more. That's all I needed. Thanks.
Alderman Edwards, thank you. We need to vote on the amendment, and that's an amendment to the wording, changing the use of the money. All those in favor of that amendment, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown. Campbell.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Cunningham. Cunningham.
Aye. Aye.
Dixon.
Aye.
Edwards.
Aye.
Hayes.
Aye. Thank you all.
Peterson.
Aye.
Petroleum.
Aye.
Robertson.
Aye.
Skidmore.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
And Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, Annette. Now we have item E. This is second reading of ordinance 2021-8. This is ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 8, Chapter 2 regarding beer. Alderman Edwards.
Excuse me, Mayor, was that just the amendment that we voted
You're
on?
right. Thank you for catching me on that. Now we need to vote on the main motion as amended, and that is Resolution 2021-19. Doesn't appear like anybody wishes to discuss this. All those in favor of Resolution 2021-19, please signify as amended. Please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name. Thank you, Alderman Petroleum.
Brown.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Dixon.
Aye.
Edwards.
Aye.
Hayes.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Petroleum.
Aye.
Robertson.
Aye.
Skidmore.
Aye.
Waters. I'm sorry. Waters.
I messed up his microphone. Alderman Waters.
Aye again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
Thank you, Annette. Russ, we need you here. That passes unanimously. Now we have item E. This is second reading of ordinance 2021-08, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 8, Chapter 2 regarding beer. Alderman Edwards.
So move.
Motion from Alderman Edwards, a second from Alderman Collins. Any discussion? Do you have something you're just ready to vote?
Yeah.
Alderman Peterson.
But I have a concern on this for anyone wanting to rent the park for a special event. We already had them pay a user fee. And now I believe this ordinance is for a special occasion permit. I support charities. I've worked for two of the largest charities in the Nashville area. But at this point, I feel like this ordinance is a little bit of overreach. And I just have concerns that we're taking money away from an organization that's trying to have a fundraiser. And I just don't feel appropriate for the city to take money away from them, even if it is going to a good cause. Thank you.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Alderman Collins.
I can kind of speak to that concern because it is a legitimate concern, which, because I've done a lot of fundraising for nonprofits within the city limits of Hendersonville, and currently it is a lot more costly for nonprofits to have events where they are going to have alcohol available, partially because they cannot use the parks and be in compliance with our beer ordinance. And there's this misconception that if you're selling alcohol at an event, you're going to make a whole lot of money. But by the time you have your state license, you hire a licensed bartender, and you get your ordinances, you're really not making a huge amount of money. And so I think that opening up potentially the parks, pending the Parks Board approval, which is another step in the process, this has the potential to be very beneficial financially to nonprofits in the area. Because right now you can't really do this at an event in the parks without buying this license, and this could put the license onto somebody else to purchase. Is that accurate, Russ?
Yeah, that is accurate. Well, as it sits right now, before it's voted on, it's a 501c3 charitable organization is the one that has to pull the permit to have it be able to sell beer in a park or elsewhere in the city. So yeah, that puts a lot of burden on the nonprofits. If that was, I hope that answers your question.
Alderman Collins, anything else? Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Edwards.
Thank you.
All those in favor of approving the second reading of ordinance 2021-8, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
No.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
No.
Petroleum,
Aye.
Robertson,
No.
Skidmore,
No.
Waters,
No.
Clary.
No.
7 ayes, 6 noes.
That passes with a majority vote. Thank you, Annette. Next, we have second reading of ordinance 2021-09. This is an ordinance regarding video recording of the meetings of all standing committees. Alderman Petroleum.
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion from Alderman Petroleum and a second from Alderman Campbell. Just want to let everybody know, and talking with folks from IT department, that we can do that. It's just going to require, at least in the short term, that all of our committee meetings be handled in the main meeting room, at least on the short term.
I can't raise my hand.
You did it right there, Alderman Cunningham, just by saying that. Alderman
Oh,
Cunningham,
I did? Oh,
just by saying that, I figured that. Alderman Cunningham.
okay. Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry. I lost the thing on the bottom of the, oh, now it appeared again. Okay. Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment to ordinance 2021-9. I'd like us to start live streaming all of our BOMA and committee meetings as we've been doing now. I think it'll add a little bit more transparency for people, especially for people that can't attend our meetings. And I got together with our IT staff and because I was concerned, of course, with the cost to see if it would be any additional cost. There would be a one-time cost on that for a Zoom license for the committee meetings at $150 per year per room. So that would be a total of $450 a year this year total. And there would be a additional cost for a microphone in one of the meeting rooms of $105. So it would be a total of whatever that is, $555.
Is there a staff cost also?
There is no staff cost. The person that assists in that gets comp time. So essentially the staff cost would be, would remain neutral.
We can't force somebody to comp time. If they, I mean, they can request comp time, but if they.
Yeah, so that's how it's been, working over the last year, a little over a year since the COVID hit.
So help me out with the wording of this, Alderman Cunningham.
In addition to recording the committee meetings, we already record the BOMA meetings. We would also be live streaming both BOMA meetings, both the BOMA and the committee meetings. And that's my amendment.
Okay. Should we just tack that on at the end of 3 business days of each meeting?
Yeah, that'll be fine. That'll
Okay.
be fine. And that's
Second.
my amendment.
I second.
Second from Alderman Robertson. Alderman Cunningham, this causes me to withdraw my support of this. I think we need to take a better look at what the staff cost is going to be. We repeatedly have a hard time when we get to the end of every year and end of every March of making sure that all our staff use their vacation time. Adding comp time and requesting them to be here more makes that more difficult. I would just want more time to study this. I'm not necessarily against the idea. I would just want more time to study before I can vote on it. Alderman Robertson, did you have something? No. Okay.
Well, I'm on to respond to that, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's not overtime. It's just comp time. So he would just equal, Jason at this point would just equal out his 40 hours per week. And it wouldn't be considered vacation time. It would just be his regular comp time. If he spends 4 hours additional every 2 weeks, he would get, say, 2 hours per week in comp time over 2 weeks, or something that equals out to that.
Alderman Cunningham.
So if it's,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, I just wanted to give you an example of that. That's it.
Thank you. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. My hearing is off. If she covered this, I apologize. But the recording shall be made available to the public within 3 business days. Are we going to charge them the same as we do on public records? Or more, or is there a charge stipulated anywhere in this ordinance?
Alderman Cunningham.
I can answer that. No, it would be the same procedure that we do currently with the BOMA meetings. They get the meetings up as soon as possible, but it's up to 3 days.
I didn't hear that.
Alderman Petroleum, Alderman Cunningham, can you try that again? We just didn't hear you very well.
Oh, sure. So Alderman Waters, his question is regarding the 3 days.
No. Oh, hold on, Alderman Waters. Okay, go ahead.
Mayor, could you repeat Alderman Waters' question?
Sure, I'll ask him to do that. Alderman Waters, go ahead.
No,
just go, you're fine. You're fine. Go ahead.
no, it was not about the 3 days, Alderman Trilly. My question was, are we going to charge the public to come in, and it says shall be available to the public within 3 business days? That's okay, but I'm concerned about the charges like we do public records.
Tina Martin would be handling all of the committee meetings, and she is salaried, so there would be no additional cost for the coverage of the committee meetings or the live streaming. Live is auto uploaded to YouTube, and there is 0 charge.
Did she give me a figure?
Let me help out a little bit. I think what Alderman Waters is concerned about is if somebody requests that publicly, if they want a recording, not to watch it on YouTube, but if they want an actual recording of those meetings.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. How does this ordinance change that? Do we have either Mary Beth or Tina available to speak? There should be no charge. Tina? I'm sorry, Mary Beth?
I don't believe Mary Beth is on yet. Her daughter has Girl Scouts this evening, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have, sir.
Without objection, we're going to suspend the rules to hear from Tina Martin. Tina, go ahead.
Okay, to answer all of your questions, what this would do is basically continue to handle the meetings exactly as we are now. Going forward, once the governor's order is dissolved, we're all anticipating that to be April 28th. Being that that's the case, all of the meetings would be live streamed. They would be available online for download if someone chooses to do so. If someone wanted to request a copy of the meeting, we would handle it exactly as we're doing now, which is simply to copy that meeting onto a DVD and give that to them. I'm not certain, because it's not handled by my department, what we charge for those DVDs. I'm sure Annette could probably answer that question as she handles all the public records. But whatever that charge is, it would be no change to that policy whatsoever.
And the cost is passed on to the constituent who would pay.
That is correct. And it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's simply the cost for the DVD itself, and not any kind of staff charges for doing the actual recording. In addition, there was a question as far as the committee meetings go, as far as the charges go. We had already spoken internally. I would be handling those meetings just like I do now. I am an exempt salaried employee, therefore there would be no comp time or overtime charges. We just need Jason to participate for now in the BOMA room because of the handling of the cameras. He's far better at that than I am. You'll get motion sickness if I'm in the control booth.
Alderman Waters. Anything else?
Are you comfortable with that now, Mayor?
Hold on one sec. We're going to go back to Alderman Waters. Alderman Waters.
I understand what they're saying, but I think there ought to be a amount put in here to what we're going to charge the public.
Okay.
That's my question. And do I need to amend it for that, or?
If you would like to, certainly that's your prerogative.
Well, I think that we need to have some kind of a charge here, just like we do public records. Everybody knows what they're going to pay when they come and get a public record.
Could we refer to the attorney, please?
Hold on one second. Yes, we will. Alderman Waters, go ahead.
What was she saying?
So if you want to ask a question to our city attorney, he might be able to help.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't aware that a salaried employee was going to be taking charge of that. So I appreciate the input from our IT staff. Mayor, do you feel more comfortable with this now?
If you gave me probably 2 weeks, I would. I just want to research what the total cost is because we're talking about Jason. We're talking about, we still are expecting more of our staff. That's where I have a hard time. Is Tina's been wonderful for the meetings as they've been remote. But when we start talking about having them on site, I think we're asking a little bit more of the staff, and I need to feel more comfortable with that. I appreciate you asking.
Okay. Okay.
Alderman Hayes.
Yes, sir. Just one question. Does this mean that all the committee meetings are going to be moved to the main room in order to be videoed?
No.
If this passes and the addition of a microphone and some equipment, probably not. And if so, the term becomes even shorter. And I'm looking for Jason, and he just sort of ducked his head back there. Jason, am I correct that if we add this equipment, basically we're not sure at this point?
Okay. Okay. I mean, I'm just imagining either that or someone's going to need to bring a camera in to each committee meeting.
We have our TVs, our monitors in our 2 committee rooms have cameras.
Okay.
Sound is a bigger issue there. In that right now, the quality would be very poor. So we need some equipment that works with our equipment to make sure that people can actually see and hear a meeting that's taking place.
I'm all for the transparency and the videoing and the YouTubing and immediate putting it out on the airways. But like you, I am concerned about increasing our cost significantly. I don't want it to increase our cost significantly. Thank you.
I can answer the questions on
Alderman Hayes,
cost.
thank you. Hold on. We're going to go to Alderman Brown. We'll come back to you in a second. Alderman Petroleum. Alderman Brown.
I actually can't remember exactly what I was going to ask because I think Tina answered it, but I did see Councilor Bradley waving, and I would like to hear what he has to say. So I would yield my floor to our city attorney.
I'll come back to you. Mr. Bradley.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say, Mr. Waters had asked a question about the cost. We charge $1 for a DVD of one of our meetings, $1. And if there's a link to those meetings on our website, which I assume there typically would be, there would be no charge whatsoever. That would be available for the public anytime.
Mr. Bradley, thank you. Alderman Brown.
Nothing more right now, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Petroleum.
Thank you, Mayor. So the cost of the microphone extension with the cord and cable protector for both rooms is $105 for the conference rooms. We just clarified there seems to be confusion about who would be running the meetings. We just clarified that it would be Mrs. Martin at zero cost because she is salaried exempt. And then after that, we just have to purchase, that's the 105 is the total for the hardware. And then the Zoom license. So it's really a minimal amount of money. Like we're talking fractions of a percentage of the budget to have more transparency and accessibility to our meetings, what we are discussing. And I think most of you all, the Zoom licenses are 150 each, be $3. So that's $505 if my math is correct, for the price of more accessibility for our constituents who after a year are now used to seeing our committee meetings being online, and they appreciate being able to see what we're discussing. Not only that, I think you all saw the editorial from our local newspaper, the Hendersonville Standard, and they actually were a proponent of more transparency in government through means like this by adding just an extra layer of communication to our constituents. None of the processes will change regarding putting it up on YouTube, distribution to records requests, and quite frankly, it could actually cut down on costs because if we are going to continue this way with the live streaming and the filming of the meeting, we might actually not need an outside source for filming the meetings anymore. So maybe that money could be, I don't know what we pay for that position, but that could, I think, more than cover the cost of 2 microphones and the Zoom license. But I hope there's really no subversive intent here. I'm not really sure where some of the questions are coming from, but I think that the more information that our constituents have access to easily, I think, the more transparent it shows we are as a city municipal government. Thank you.
Alderman Petroleum, thank you. Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. My only question is, I think we're all here for transparency in government, or we wouldn't have run for office. I don't know. I look at every one of you on my screen, and I know all of you, and I don't see one person that is against transparency, because if I did, I'd call you out right now. So I'm just, I don't think that's the issue here. The issue, maybe for some that are very conservative, maybe money, maybe not. I'm for the ordinance. I think people will actually come and get it to watch, because believe it or not, there are some people, especially when I go in the grocery store, they watch this, and I just look at them. I kind of laugh, because and most of you've heard me say this, and I look at them and I say, yeah, I enjoy it too. But sometimes it's better than All My Children or One Life to Live, for the old soap operas, and it takes a minute, because they don't show those on TV anymore. Unfortunately, it would be a help for me to taking care of my mom, but they don't have it. I thought about emailing them, writing and begging them, please, to put it back. But my point is for Public Works Committee, especially, my question would be, like this summer and this spring, because we do this, and I've done it for years. I mean, actually since '86, I know of, and even before I think Joe and them did this in '85, or it might have been '86. I did it in '87. I don't know, but that's immaterial. But what we do a lot of times in our committee is we go out and we get in the SUV or the truck or wherever, all three of us, and we go visit sites. So what do? Just shut it down until we get back? I mean, like there's one over on Hipplewhite that I'm dying to show the committee about a drainage issue when we start hitting drainage issues. That's in Ward 6, and I know they'll be pleased to go on, be pleased to take a look at it, see if we can help them. But that's my issue. Or a paving project. We've done that too. I know when Pat was in my committee, we had done it. And I know when Alderman Waters was in my committee, we used to do it all the time. So what do we do it with an issue like that when we say we're going to go and on the committee, not the board, but the committee, and say we're going over here to this, we're going to Autumn Creek and take a look at an issue? Do we just shut it down and then come back and open it up, or what? I mean, how does that work?
Do you want me?
Hold on.
Sure, I would say.
Hold on,
I don't care who answers it. It wasn't directed to anybody. I was asking everyone, because
I'd like to answer as the sponsor.
Hold on. Let's let Alderman Skidmore finish.
Oh, sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Skidmore.
So I don't know. I mean, what do we do about that?
May I answer now?
Thank you, Alderman Petroleum.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, so what do you typically do? Like right now in committee meetings, we have, like in public safety, and I think you do this in public works, we have the little audio recorder. So do you just carry that with you, or do you just shut it off at that point? I would just say we continue doing whatever we typically do.
Okay, so all right. Well, in response to that, it doesn't, like I said, it does. I don't know. I'll talk to the other committee members, but it does not matter to me. I think you're right. I think taking a recording of it, because that's what we normally do, or we go visit a site like that. But when we get back, does the person just sit there and wait on us until we get back, and then the camera goes back on, or do we just keep it on the recorder? I don't know. I don't know how to address that.
I think that would be covered in the meeting minutes. Obviously we can't have a reality crew following all of our committees around town for field trips, but
I agree with that.
It could reflect in the meeting minutes that
went so and so, residents.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just as long as we get, my deal is just as long as everybody's in agreement and it covers that type of situation. It's to cover the city as well as, the constituency.
Sure. In my 5 years, let's see, I served on the general committee for 2 years, and then I've been on public safety for 3 years. I don't recall us ever having any type of field trips, so I haven't had that experience. But I think that just continuing with what we typically do, since Public Works does that, just continuing on with your audio taping is sufficient.
Well, that's what we'll do then. But it is very much a part of our committee, and you can ask any alderman that's ever served on our Public Works, because there are some issues that you can't, whether it be paving, but mostly it's under drainage issues that you cannot understand it until you see it. Because somebody can come up and tell you and say, hey, I've got water coming this way and that way and that way. Well, okay, I understand that, because that's, water's going to go where water's going to go. But once you go see it and you go, oh, I understand. Well, this is what can be done. We can put a pipe here and redesign that, and the city can do that, and there's no more water. So,
Sure.
Just let everybody know. Thank you. That's all I need.
Alderman Petroleum, anything else?
No, I'm happy to answer any questions if there's any more.
Thank you. Alderman Collins.
I just want to say, and I'm going to read this off my phone, so be patient with me, that currently we have 36 people watching this meeting as it's aired live. The committee meetings that we had this evening ranged from 22 to 43. So the people who are watching us right now want to and are actively watching the committee meetings, and we need to provide that for them. And I think that the 3 days that's allowed for the meetings to be posted online allows time to get site visits posted. I mean, you just recess the meeting while you're driving and then add the video while you're on site to it. You have 3 days to post it if it's a meeting that can't be done live. I think it's very reasonable. People want this. They are participating now that it's been made available to them by way of fluke. And we need to continue to do it. I think I'm definitely going to support the ordinance. We can work out, the staff can work out these kind of details later.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding Mark's comments regarding road trips, to look at drainage issues and things of this nature, I just think that we need to videotape the meetings that are actually happening in City Hall. And if we should take a road trip, go look at the drainage ditch or a fire department building that needs some work or whatever may be the issue out there, or parks department or the collapsed golf cart barn, we go and look at it and then come back and have our discussions at City Hall regarding that particular one. You're not going to be voting out in the field. You're going to come back into City Hall and have that meeting and finish it up. I mean, we've even done it to where, hey, in the next 3 or 4 days, guys, and get a chance to run by there and let's look at the road, let's look at this, and then we'll come back and vote on it in committees. And I think we need to continue that moving forward. But I do think that all committee meetings do need to be videotaped and put out there for everyone to view anytime they need to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
I just wanted to add one more thing before we vote on my amendment. I think it's vitally important that we are living in a real-time universe right now. And I think the constituency out there has gotten so used to us being able to live stream. And I would highly, highly encourage my fellow aldermen to support my amendment to live stream, not only the committee, not only BOMA, but also all the committee meetings, instead of having a 3-day delay, and they might hit the paper before it hits YouTube for them to view it. So they'll be able to see, how we conduct things and why we come to the conclusions we do, because a lot of the work is done at the committee level, not at BOMA. A lot of the background work and the research, the due diligence is done at the committee level. So I would encourage my fellow aldermen to support this, my amendment, and support this ordinance. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Nobody else wishes to speak on the amendment involving regarding live streaming. Alderman Robertson, hold on here. Hold on, just a second.
Both sponsors.
Go ahead.
The amendment and the original. So it's my understanding that from your discussions with IT staff that we will not need to hire an additional employee for this amendment or for the main motion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. That's all.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petroleum,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Clary.
No.
12 ayes, 1 no.
That passes unanimously. Now we're back on the main motion. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a logistics question. I feel pretty sure we're going to pass this. So once it's passed this evening, when will this go into effect? I mean, I know it'll be in effect, but when will we actually start processing our meetings the way we've just discussed and we're voting on? Will that be our next meeting or once we resume back to City Hall the 1st of May?
It's easy right now because we're at least doing a hybrid, if not a Zoom, for all our committee meetings and this meeting. I don't know the answer to that if Zoom is not an option. I mean,
I can answer that question. And also, if we're talking about IT issues, Ms. Martin is still on the line. To me, my thought process was once we start going live in-person meetings, we would need this option because we're fixing to wrap up our Zoom era for a while. But Tina, are you still on the line?
I am, although the IT director has joined, so I would defer to her.
Oh, okay. Mary Beth?
Yes, Peg.
Thank you. So how soon could we start this process? How long would it take?
As long we can start tomorrow as far as recording any meetings in any of the conference rooms.
Okay. So basically we'll be ready once we go back to live meetings. You all will have all of the equipment you need to do that.
So yes and no. So we've got 2 conference rooms working right now. There is a microphone that we do have to order. It's about $50 to make sure that we get good audio in the 3rd conference room. But that will take a week or so or less.
Okay, so conservatively then we would say 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's being very generous.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Alderman Brown?
It does, but I have a question number 2.
Go ahead.
And that's probably directed at Mary Beth. Okay, so right now, what I understand we're going to do is all of our meetings, all of them, committee, BOMA, everything will have to be in our main meeting room in order to process this.
That amendment just changed that.
That's not the case. We could Zoom from any of the conference rooms.
Okay, all right. That answers my question then. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Brown. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to clarify the amendment passed 12-1. It was not unanimous vote, unless you'd like to change your vote, Mayor. Want to verify with you if you want to change your vote on that.
I'm glad you caught that. I'm making all sorts of mistakes tonight. No, that passed with a majority vote. I do intend, if without any other amendments, I do intend to vote on this.
Thank you.
For this.
Oh, change your vote.
Alderman Petroleum. Thank you, Alderman Campbell.
If there's no more questions, I'd like to call the question.
That may not be necessary.
Thank you. I withdraw.
All those in favor of second reading of ordinance 2021-9, please signify, as amended, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Shoot.
Hayes.
Aye.
Thank you. Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
That passes unanimously. Thank you, Annette. Next, we have, make sure here. First reading of ordinance 2021-14. This is an ordinance authorizing an amendment to the budget ordinance 2020-20 by appropriating additional monies for supplemental paving. Alderman Robertson.
So moved.
Motion from Alderman Robertson, a second from Alderman Waters. Alderman Robertson.
So moved.
Okay. We've got a motion, a second. Would you wish to speak on this?
Yes, I do. Thank you. First of all, with the information that Alderman Collins gave us, I understand that BOMA meetings now, according to the Nelson ratings, has eased out, lost in space. So we have more people watching. So regarding this ordinance, all kidding aside, sometimes they don't go anywhere, do they? You got to try them on the road, though. Got to try them. I want to thank the Public Works staff for their hard work on this ordinance. I especially want to thank Trace. I think it's always good to give kudos to our staff. I enjoy watching Gunsmoke. And on Gunsmoke, Marshall Dillon is the marshal. And whenever things get out of hand, they call on Marshall Dillon to go clear it up. And Trace, as far as I'm concerned, is the Marshall Dillon of utility issues in the city. So Trace and the Public Works staff, Marshall Boyd, I want to thank you, and Sarah as well. I also want to thank the committee, especially the chairman, Mark, for his support and encouragement on this ordinance. I cut my teeth as an alderman in the Public Works Committee, and both Chairman Skidmore and Vice Chairman Campbell trained me well. And one thing they trained me was always push paving because that is an essential duty of government. So outside public safety, there is nothing more important to the safety and well-being of a city than its roads. Providing adequate roads is a necessary and primary function of local government. I doubt that every one of us, when running for office, campaigned on the need to pay for more roads. And in fact, I got out of my files one of my first brochures when I ran for Alderman of Ward 6. I mentioned three things as my platform to run, and one of them was improving the condition of our roads. And I'm sticking to that campaign rhetoric. I believe that this ordinance tonight gives each of us the opportunity tonight to fulfill our campaign promises. We are blessed with a revenue surplus. Channel 4 mentioned it last night as kind of an anomaly. But we are blessed with a revenue surplus because our people, our citizens, believe in local businesses. And they eat at our restaurants and they spend money in Hendersonville. And because of that, the dire predictions that we had on the effect of COVID did not come true. Our revenues are healthy and high. The question is, what do we do with such a surplus? My thought is to put a mere 10% of our of our surplus. According to our finance department, our projected year-end fund balance, or rainy day fund, if you want to call it that, would be between $1.5 and $1.2 million. So I don't think that it's unwise for us to address a severe problem in our city by only allocating 10% or $500,000 for additional paving this year. So 90% of the surplus will go toward building up our year-end fund balance. The bulk of it, 90%. Perspective is important here, I believe. I believe that the 4.7 million, and this is 500,000 minus the 1.5 or 1.2, will leave our rainy day fund at almost $4.7 million. I have not been able to find in the records of this city where we have ever had a higher year-end fund balance by the dollar amount. I believe that the comptroller would applaud our first year effort. I don't believe for 1 minute the comptroller would expect for our city to achieve his objective that he provided to us in year one. It's about like when I recently went to my doctor and he told me that I need to lose some weight. The doctor told me that he didn't expect me to lose 25 pounds immediately, but the expectation was over time that I should lose that weight. You see, building up our year-end fund balance is only practical over time, say over the next several years. I believe 4.7 million in reserves is an excellent start in meeting that objective. Now, some have asked me why I brought this matter up, since the mayor's almost identical proposal failed by a vote of 7-6 on February the 9th, 2021. Basically, the reason I brought it up was because of your comments that you gave explaining your no votes at the November 9th meeting. And I'd like to quote just a couple of those. I went back and listened to the tape and took these verbatim. One alderman stated, if Marshall is able to spend all that money between now and even May, we can come back and allocate more funds out of the general fund for paving. That was Chairman Cunningham. Another alderman stated, if Marshall gets all of the money spent for paving and can do that in time for the Rogers Group to be engaged to spend additional funds this year, I am more than willing to discuss this again at that time. And that was Alderman Collins. And then finally, Mayor, one alderman stated, Mayor, if we can spend the $2 million by the end of May, I'll be the first one to sign on as sponsor to spend more money for paving. And that was Chairman Brown. So based on those observations, I started watching Public Works. I started communicating with Public Works to see if we could meet those conditions. In summary, the two conditions are as follows. First, can we spend down the monies presently allocated for paving in the existing budget? And Marshall Boyd, Director of our Public Works, and Trace and Sarah have all said definitely yes. The second question that we raised at the time, the condition that we would support additional paving, is if we allocate an additional $500,000 for paving, can the Rogers Group commit to doing the work by June the 30th? And the answer I found in my investigation was yes. Mayor, I don't know if it's appropriate, but we do have someone from the Rogers Group on the call. And since they would be doing the paving, rather than the board believe my own words, I would like to ask, I think his name is Jared. I'd like to ask Jared the same question. Jared, can you hear us?
Hold on one second. Without objection, we're going to suspend the rules and hear from representative of Rogers Group. That is the company that has our current paving contract. And this is Jared Nix. Jared, when after you ask the question, we need you to identify your position with Rogers Group. Alderman Robertson, go ahead.
So let me ask the two questions. So you have seen the list, and that is Appendix C in this ordinance packet. You have seen that list. Those are roads that are currently either being paved, have been paved, or in the process of being paved. So that list in Appendix C, have you reviewed that? And can Rogers Group commit to this board tonight that they can pave those roads within this fiscal year?
Yes, sir. I have reviewed that list, and we can pave those roads this fiscal year.
Okay, the second question, Appendix A to this ordinance. I think Mr. Boyd shared that with you. That's a list of roads in each ward. And have you reviewed that list? And do you feel confident that the Rogers Group can pave all of those roads before the end of this fiscal year as well?
Yes, sir. I was asked to identify who I was before I answered them, so I'll do that. I'm the area construction manager for Rogers Group. I take care of all of our paving operations. Our paving crew, as well as our asphalt plants, answer through me. So any of the direction of where our production comes from or where we put our paving crews comes through my direction. But to answer your question, yes, sir, I have reviewed those roads, and yes, I can verify that we will be able to do those by the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you. In fact, you've been in Ward 1, I believe, the last couple of days. And what have you paved?
Yes,
Donna Road, is that correct?
Yes, sir, we have, and I believe Laurel Road as well. And we're going to continue to pave everything that we have milled so far. We will do some prep on the unmilled sections, and then we will be back in there to pave those as well. So we should hopefully have everything wrapped up that has under the current dollars that have been committed to us, probably by the end of this month, if not middle of the next month.
Thank you. Thank you for that confirmation. And during the Public Works Committee meeting, Alderman Hayes mentioned a point that I hadn't thought of. It's kind of like keeping the pedal to the metal, and maybe he can address that. The point that he made during Public Works, I thought that it was a good one. I'll not steal his thunder on that. So a former governor of our state once gave this story. He said that the highest road in the world is in the Andes Mountains in South America. The longest road in the world is the Appian Way in Italy. But the most important road in the world is the one by my house. And I sure believe that that's true. If you will vote for this ordinance tonight, I'd like just to tell you that you will be able, in Ward 2, you'll be able to go to your citizens that live on Berrywood Drive and also Hickory Trail and tell them that you voted on this ordinance, that their roads will be paved before the end of this fiscal year. Those citizens in Ward 3 that live on Shady View Drive, If you vote for this ordinance tonight, you will be able to tell them that their roads will be paved before the end of this fiscal year. In Ward 4, you'll be able to tell your constituents on Shawnee Drive that before the end of this fiscal year, their road will be paved. In Ward 5, you'll be able to tell your constituents on Chutes Lane that their road will be paved before the end of this fiscal year. And in Ward 6, if this ordinance passes, we will be able to tell the citizens that not only live but use Southern Trace will be paved this fiscal year. Now, at the appropriate time, Mayor, I do need to make an amendment because Dana Drive, I have come to learn, is not in Ward 1. And I would like, when the appropriate time is to replace it, according to Marshall and Public Works staff have researched, and they would like to replace that with Melanie Drive in Ward 1. So if this ordinance passes, you will be able to tell the alderman in Ward 1 that your constituents on Melanie Drive will have their roads paved before the end of the year. Well, many of our roads are in terrible shape. I truly believe that a state of emergency exists on many of our city roads. I have heard, and I'm sure you have heard, the many complaints about our roads. Now is the time to act. I think that this action tonight is a fiscally wise action. Again, it only allocates 10% of our expected rainy day fund for additional paving, leaving 90% intact. So with that, Mayor, I'll be glad to answer any questions. I'm sorry it took so long, but my late father was a former preacher, and he always preached long and hard. So maybe I took that from him. But with that, Mayor, I'm available to answer any questions.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. We'll come back to you for that amendment in a few minutes. I think we've got 4 hands up here, and I suspect they want to speak on the main motion. So why don't we work our way through there, and then we'll come back for your amendment. Thank you. Alderman Edwards.
Okay, so thank you, Alderman Robertson. Is this, and maybe I missed this, are you only asking for 500,000? You suggested either 500,000 or $1 million in the ordinance. Are you just requesting 500,000 now?
Yes, I have heard some of the comments from the alderman, especially Chairman Cunningham. So I have throttled back my enthusiasm to $500,000. I believe that 10% of the rainy day fund is a wise expenditure. So yes, I'm only advocating, and that's in the resolved clause. 500.
Yeah, I saw that at the end. It kind of suggested both. I was just clarifying. Thank you for that. Okay, so how much do we have available for to spend on paving for the rest of the fiscal year, which I've calculated to only be another 10 weeks?
Marshall?
We have paving ongoing. It hasn't been invoiced yet, but based on what's being done now and what's left, it's about $300,000, give or take, between now and the end of the fiscal year, based on the current list.
Okay, and that's just for another 10 weeks. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, and Jared, did you explain when that would be spent?
Yeah, right now we're still actively paving, and we will continue to until we get the current list that we have done. There will be some time that we may not be paving, but we'll be actively working on prepping the streets to pave on the current list. So we'll be probably getting them done within the next 3 to 4 weeks, I would say.
Alderman Edwards, anything else?
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me, allergies are getting me. I don't know if they're getting anybody else, but they about got me shut down. Wanted to ask Jared a question since you're still on here. And you come to one of these meetings, either by Zoom or in person, you get bullets shot at you. So they're not bad bullets, but you do. I'm looking at Appendix C that was given to me, and I see on here Memorial Park and Police Parking Lot, which are kind of dear to me because I was in that discussion back 2 weeks ago, a month ago, when we talked about these. Are those on your list to get done in the next 3 or 4 weeks, as you said?
I would have to review that list, but I think they are on that list. I know at least the police park is as well.
Okay, well, the list I have says Memorial Park and Police Parking Lot, no mill needed, and it's on that list to be done. This list right here.
Yes, yes, sir.
So that's
the list that we have. Marshall can confirm that, but that's the list that he has sent to us.
That's Marshall, can you confirm that?
Yes.
Both those are on there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And you're saying once this list is completed, you said you'll have approximately $300,000 left?
No, I guess what I'm saying, what's budgeted for this current fiscal year is about $300,000 left to pave. And then if this ordinance is approved, we'll have another $500,000 to pave with.
Okay, I'd have to go back and ask Jared a question now, since we're talking 10 weeks. You think you can get this list done in 3 or 4 weeks? That's over $1 million worth of paving. Another $300,000, you should be able to do that in 2 weeks. If we put $500,000 with that, seems like you're going to have a lot of paving to do on the second list, and you feel like you can get all that done, whatever the second list is when we move stuff up. I know that's a wide open question, so I'm asking you and Marshall both.
Yeah, I mean, we feel like we can get that done. Obviously, we need to get that list of streets, go through those and see what's required on those. Once we get that list, or, once we kind of look through that list, we'll be able to get those to you. I have no doubt that we can get the $500,000 taken care of. In fact, I mentioned in the previous meeting that the other addendum that was put out there was $1 million, and I have no doubt we could get that as well. So there's no concern with us finishing that by the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, I appreciate that. I really do. If you can get that much paving done, Mr. Robertson quoted me correctly before that I certainly would give you $500,000 and maybe even a bit more if you continue to pave, but I don't want to get into that necessarily this evening. But one thing and this is just a point, I think we need to quit using the term rainy day fund. A rainy day fund to me is my savings account that I go to if my air conditioning unit breaks or something like that in my home. The comptroller has more than one time been kind to us, but scolded us a bit because we didn't have enough money in the general fund. And the general fund is what we run the city with. It's not a savings account. It's money that we pay bills with every week, every month. And we end up paying bills through a snowstorm and an ice storm. We moved a little money around to fix a golf cart shed. I just think we need to be very, very careful with that in feeling comfortable that we're going to have $4.5 to $5 million at the end of the year. When you get feeling too comfortable, that's when you get bit. And I just don't think we need to get to the point that we're going to get bit. So thank you, Mr. Nix, for taking a bullet or two there and good answers. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Brown, thank you. By the way, Jared, I forgot to let you know that you have no obligation to answer any questions. I should have let you know that earlier, I guess. Alderman Hayes.
Oh, well, I would have kept my mouth shut this whole time.
So, Mr. Nix, you're saying that you can put the additional $500,000 worth of pavement down on the roads by the end of June 30th. It'll be.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It will be on the road. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. Alderman Petroleum.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to ask the maker of the legislation, Mr. Roberson. Can he hear me, Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I'm looking at both lists. appendix or both appendix A, B, and 3C, you had mentioned in your talking points that Melanie Drive was going to be paved. Is that correct?
I stated that I would need to make that an amendment so that Ward 1 has also a road. I intend to make that an amendment to this motion. We found out from staff just late this afternoon in Public Works. In fact, Chairman Skidmore called it, that Dana Drive is not in Ward 1.
That's correct.
Marshall and his staff went back to the plan and pulled up Melanie Drive in Ward 1. I want you to understand that when I begin this legislation, Alderman Petroleum, I did not go to the staff and say, all right, these are the roads that I want paved.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to understand which roads in Ward 1 will be paved. So right now in the legislation, no Ward 1 roads are being paved, but you're saying that you're going to make an amendment to pave Melanie.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and make that amendment that we add Melanie Drive. But if we're looking at Appendix A, that's Melanie Drive, and then if we move over to Appendix B, which is the $1 million list, there are no additional Ward 1 roads, correct? I'm just trying to understand so I can explain to my constituents when they ask. If this legislation passes, the road in Ward 1 that would be paved by the end of June would be Melanie, and that is it, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I would like to make the amendment to add Melanie.
And I'll second that. It's a friendly amendment, and I will second that.
Thank you, sir.
Marshall, help me out. Is it all of Melanie Drive or is it a segment of it?
It is a segment of that. And I don't have the termini at the moment, but I can get that to you before the end of the meeting.
Okay. For those who don't know, that all of our paving, all of our paving list involves sections of roads. Very rarely does it involve an entire road unless it's a very small road. Can y'all hold off on this amendment until Marshall can find out what section we're talking about? Obviously, we don't need to repave a portion of Melanie that it doesn't need to be repaved. So let's make sure we're in the right portion.
Okay, is it a failed road, Marshall? Because I know there's several roads in Ward 1 that are at dust level at this point.
It's currently in our 18-month timeline of the 3-year plan. And we looked at the roads throughout the Ward 1, and that was the most closely related to the cost of Dana Drive. So we thought it would be an even swap. But looking at the termini, it's from Alyssa Drive to Hazelwood, Roberta Drive to Roberta Drive, and then from Roberta Drive to Alyssa Drive.
Okay, what about those streets? Are you going to pave those streets too?
No, that's just the from street and the to street.
No, I understand that, but the mayor just stated that you're not going to pave the whole street, and those are not particularly long streets either. So maybe when you're checking your information on that, if you could determine the length of the road, that would be great.
Sure, we can check that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So can we hold off on the amendment until we can get some specifics on what that amendment should be?
Yes, sir. I withdraw.
Okay. Alderman Robertson, you're okay with that? Okay. Alderman Petroleum, anything else?
Not right now. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, H Drive is a road that is split between wards 1 and 2. And are we doing that road, Marshall, in its entirety? Doesn't when I'm looking at this sheet here, it's on the Appendix C sheet back on the back. It's Gates Drive, and we've talked about it before. And I was just curious, are we talking about the Gates in its entirety from Walton Ferry to where it terminates down at Rebecca Drive, Rebecca Court, or Gates?
I can. That's the current list we're doing, and I'll have to look at our more detailed plan to know what that termini is. But I can. Of course, it's already scheduled, but I can provide that.
And also another road that I would like to see us reconsider would be Cages. short streets. First one off of you driving down Saunders Ferry Road and you turn right, top of the hill by the lighthouse. That would be takes you to Walton Ferry. Short street, but it is really rough and could use some serious attention. So,
Alderman Campbell,
put those out there.
I'm having some conversations with our planning director about that to see if there's some other options there as far as instead of just us paying for it.
I understand, and that's what I was hoping to hear as well, because that's what we need to do over there in that area. But those people are also really ask me all the time, and I know they ask Lee as well about paving Cages Road. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cages Road is currently in our 12-month
plan.
12-month plan. So.
All right, good. That's great to know. I can at least tell the constituents down there. Thank you.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Collins.
I just want to say that I am, given that Jonathan makes his amendment and that amendment passes, I am going to support this tonight, but I want to make it clear that I do not agree with Alderman Roberson's view on the general fund. I want to make sure that it's very clear that 5.1, in my opinion, it's where we're landing at the end of this fiscal year. And I expect in the budget that will be increased in the next fiscal year. We'll have budget workshop between now and the second reading of this ordinance. And if I'm not happy with the way that is sounding, I may withdraw my support for this. And here's why. Because we have a plan that we paid for that we all seem to agree, $2.8 million a year, but we keep pulling money from supplemental paving in the past. That's what everybody says is the one of the root causes of why we're not paving as much as we budget. And the reason we're pulling from supplemental paving is because we don't have enough money in the general fund when things happen, like the flood we just had, like the golf cart barn that needs to be repaired. We cannot keep this plan long-term if we don't have enough money in savings. Right. I do not think that providing an adequate general fund is against savings. I just think it's long-term thought. I also want to say that I would actually be more comfortable with this if I felt that the additional list was based more on the condition of the road and less on having one in each ward, such that you get a vote from the alderman or those people who live there are going to be angry because you didn't vote to pave their road. That's political maneuvering. I want these roads to be paved based upon the condition of the road. And if it's not, everybody thinks their crow is the blackest. But the truth is there are terrible roads all over the city. Many of them are not in my ward. I know that it moves the roads in my ward closer to the top of the list. I get that. I'm going to support this, given that Jonathan makes his amendment and that it passes. I don't want to make his amendment for him and steal his thunder, but it is not without reservation. Thank you.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Marshall's got the information for the amendment. We've got a couple people in the queue. Are y'all okay going back to Alderman Roberts and Alderman Petroleum for that amendment?
Yes.
Looks like, okay. So Marshall, help us out here.
Yes, sir. I mentioned Melanie Road is the entire road for Melanie.
Is it? That makes things easy. So we're removing, so the amendment should be removing Dana from the $500,000 list and putting Melanie into the $500,000 list.
That's correct. That's what I call it.
And just to clarify, and Mark, you would know this more than anybody. Mark, are you there?
I'm here. No, I just was putting my coffee down.
We have, and I appreciate what Alderman Collins said about black crows or whatever, but again, like I've stated at previous meetings, we are in the oldest developed section of town.
That's correct.
And our roads are the oldest. That's just the reality of the situation. And we have roads that have literally turned to dust. So Mark, is because that road is on the back end of the peninsula, and I know obviously we'll get less use than say Neptune to Riviera or Harbor, roads that are getting the full-fledged use of everyone exiting or entering the peninsula. I'm just trying to figure out, is Melanie a failed road?
Yeah.
Like, how was Melanie chosen?
Well, in response to me on how Melanie was chosen, I left that up to the professionals that work in our city. They come back with a list and they tell we, what needs to be done. And I will go out and I will look at them. And if you drive out there tomorrow, you'll see, I think you need to also look at the pipes that go underneath the road and how it dips. And you know this, Peg. I mean, I'm not trying to make it something that it's not. You drive it and it's just like, man, you better make sure you get your shocks ready. And so when they came back, I know to be just, and Eddie is exactly Alderman Roberson. I'm sorry, Eddie. Alderman Roberson was correct. When I looked at the list and in fact, I spoke with Marshall about it and I said, no, wait a minute. We've got a problem here because, if you're going to do Connie Drive from Walton Ferry to the end of it, because if you'll notice on the attachment, it says end. So I figured that's what he was doing, but I wanted to clarify because I thought it was very important. You all know how I feel about roads, and this talks about not only Ward 1, but for everybody's district. I didn't see any problems with all the rest of them. Every one of them, you drive them, you're going to see how bad they are. But when that came up, I said to myself, I said, wait a minute, this isn't right. This is not an accurate list here. So I called Marshall and I asked him, I said, this is not any criticism, but what I'm looking at is like you have two streets in Ward 1, on this attachment. And I think that's incorrect. We both looked it through and he said, you're right. We've got to change it. So I said, we'll go to your 3-year plan list, which we all supported, every one of us. And he said, okay. He looked at the list and he said, Melanie Drive will be comparable because of money, which there are some aldermen that are concerned about us spending money for roads. It was comparable to that. It was on the list. There was no, there's nothing hanky panky about it. And I said, do it. I said, I think that's a good one because it is back there. And you well know this, Peg. Those streets back there are deplorable. There's some that are just, they're going to have,
I agree. Yeah, there's many in Ward 1 that are deplorable.
Yeah. Back there in the back is horrible. And so this is a beginning of expanding out into the sections of the city of Hendersonville that they need the paving. And so you get one back there, 2 or 3 years ago, Peg, you will remember this. We started paving. What is the name? I'm sorry. I get so excited because it's just the roads back there. Roberta Drive, for example, we started paving back there towards the lake. It stopped, but it gave us the opportunity to go ahead and do Melanie. The next one probably, I don't know this, but I'm just, we'll have to see what in public works. The next one will be Shirley and on and on and on because those roads are in deplorable condition.
Okay. So Marshall, I don't have the strategic plan that was in front of me. So because constituents are going to ask me and I just want to be able to answer the question. So Melanie was chosen based on its state. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I missed a part of that question.
Sorry, I'm getting reverberation. Are you all getting that as well?
Yes.
Okay, it's bizarre. When constituents ask me how the road was chosen, I just want to be able to explain to them. So basically it's based on the road rating.
Yeah. So if you remember, we did a 3-year plan, identified roads at monthly intervals, 6, 12, 18. And so what we did is, obviously that was based on the condition of the road, the index.
And so where did it fall on that strategic plan?
I believe it was the 18-month list, but as Chairman Skidmore had mentioned, I was trying to find a comparable cost.
I see.
To
So
Dana. I mean, Lakeside, if you look at the list, Lakeside Park was an earlier list road to be paved, but it was a much more expensive road to be paved. And so we went out 6 more months and pulled in Melanie Drive.
Okay, so it was a variety of reasons, trying to make the numbers work, the condition of the road, etc.
And if you look at the current list that we're paving now, there's a pretty good percentage of Ward 1 roads on that list that we're currently doing.
Donna and Harbor Court.
Well, I can just read it off. Rice Road, Lauderdale, Donna, Imperial.
Well, I do have a question about Imperial. Why are we paving Imperial? Because of the HUD work?
Right. We're partnering with HUD. Obviously, they've done a lot of work on that in that area. And so we're going to partner with HUD to come together and do that road at one time.
So is that a 50-50 partnership or a 80-20 partnership, or what percentage are we paying?
I can't remember those exact numbers at the moment, but I do know it's a partnership, and I can get the percentages, but I can't remember those at the moment.
That's okay. Okay. And then one final question. If we do pass this amendment for, I believe y'all are talking about the 500,000, that's going to move up our whole list, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Petroleum, did you want to make a motion?
Where is Mark? I lost him again. Did we lose Mark?
He was with us a second ago.
Let's wait for him to come back onto the meeting, if you don't mind.
Okay, Alderman Hayes.
I'm ready to make that amendment if it's an appropriate time.
I think it's probably as appropriate as any. Go ahead.
All right. My amendment is this: any unspent paving funds as of 6/30/21 will be returned to the general fund.
Second. Okay, you're talking about supplemental paving funds.
Yes, sir. Okay. Especially this 500,000, but yes.
Okay, and we had a second from Alderman Robertson. Okay, we have a motion from Alderman Hayes and a second from Alderman Robertson. We have a couple people with their hands up. Is there anybody who wants to discuss this motion for an amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please signify by saying no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
I think we're just gonna have to consider it absent right now.
Okay. Waters,
Aye.
Clary.
Aye.
Okay, that's 12 ayes and 1 absent.
Appreciate that. That passes. And that's now we're back to the main motion. Let's see, Alderman Campbell. Thank you. How'd you know that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to point out the reason why we have these funds is because of the COVID virus and us cutting our budget and tightening our budget throughout last year. And plus our sales tax helped out a great deal. But the police department and the fire department, along with the parks department, all cut their spending. The police department held off on purchasing, hiring 7 police officers. Also, they did not purchase the number of automobiles they needed last year. So they will be asking for 20 cars in this year's upcoming budget. And then you've also got the $600,000 air pack system that the fire department has out for a grant right now. But if it does not come through, we will be on the hook for buying a air pack machine, which is, every one of our citizens need this for fighting fires, because there is a life expectancy to that particular piece of equipment, and it will need to be replaced. And then also the fire department held off on purchasing or hiring 3 positions last year, as well as the police department. And I'm sorry I could not get into the Parks Department's budget on what all they cut back, but that's just a few of the items that those 2 departments held off on. So as we go on a spending spree here for paving, we have quite a bit of spending ahead of us in those 2 departments for public safety and watching out for all of our constituents. So just keep that in mind as we move forward spending money. Thank you very much.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Hayes, I should have come back to you after that motion. Did you have anything else?
No, sir. No, sir.
Appreciate that. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a few comments. You know how strongly I feel about our general fund. I keep on hearing the word surplus. We don't have a surplus. We had a deficit in our budget. We're working on a deficit budget. We had to use our general fund last year to balance our budget. I don't know if everybody has short memories about that or not. And we were attacked by certain people in the public because we did that. I just want to caution the board. And I heard also that this is the year that we're going to have the highest ending general fund. Well, I just want to put that in the right perspective here. Our general fund in 2011 and 2012 ranged between $4.1 and $4.5 million based on revenues of around $30 million. So if we were to compare apples to apples, we were at about a 35% increase in revenues right now, which means that our general fund should come in at anywhere between $5.5 million and $6 million. And again, I'm going to repeat what the State Comptroller's Office is telling us to do, that our general fund should be about between 16 and 18% of our revenues, which should bring it to between $7 and $8 million. Now, I don't expect us to do that overnight. It's a gradual thing that we need to strive to do. But to start comparing our general fund and saying that we're at an all-time high is not accurate information, and it's not comparing apples to apples. But I do appreciate Alderman Hayes's amendment saying if we do not spend all the funds that we are allocating to paving, for it to revert back to the general fund immediately upon June 30th. And I thought that we could have a general fund in excess of $5 million so that we could be able to pave through the fall, through the summer and the fall. Historically, we're just paving, instead of taking advantage of paving in the months of July, August, September, October, November, we were just historically being able to pave during the months of October, November, and part of December until everything closed down. So my hope was that we would be able to take advantage of our cash flow situation and be able to take advantage of those months that we weren't able to take advantage of in the past because of, cash flow restrictions and that sort of thing. But I want to know exactly, this is kind of a list, and to me it says what Alderman Roberson said, the list was made up by taking all the wards and not, if there were more important streets in Ward, say 5, And they should have been scaled, maybe three roads there and no roads in Ward 1 or Ward 6 or whatever. And the other roads, that's not a way to have a strategic plan, in my opinion. If you look at road and the condition of roads, the roads in probably the older sections of town would need more attention than the newer sections of town. But I don't know how this list was, who made this list, other than 3 people getting together and making a list. So I'm not convinced that this is the best use of the money, and maybe it needs to be looked at again. And whatever it takes, we need to do it. Peg asked about the Imperial Drive, because I understand HUD was supposed to be responsible for repairing that road that they tore up so horribly. And that was the purpose of that. So I appreciate, like I said, I appreciate Alderman Hayes. I caution the board, we need to get on the general fund, and it's not a surplus. So I want you to stop using that word if you can. It's not surplus money, because we're running at a deficit budget. And I hope that when we have the budget this year, that we'll be able to have revenue and expenses at least equal each other, or revenues outweigh the expenses this year. And so that's my hope. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a logistical question, I guess, again. So we're going to approve another $500,000, $500,000. And what that means, we're going to get more paving, which will move that list up from the master list. We'll get shorter. Marshall, I'm going to ask you a question. So I know this is an approximate. So if your street's on the 12-month list right now, where would that $500,000 take it to? Probably 6 months list.
Well, I do want to remind everyone our list was based on funding of 2.8 million every year. And so, like, for example, yes, the 500,000 will move everything up, but if we don't get 2.8 million next fiscal year, then it'll just move everything out into the future. I don't know if that makes sense, but we've tried to base everything assuming we'd get 2.8 million every year. The 500,000 hopefully we'll get tonight, or then in 2 readings, that will move everything up, assuming we get the 2.8 million every fiscal year.
I don't think there's probably a person on this Zoom meeting right now that's not ready to approve $2.8 million. I'll speak for them. I'll bet you every alderman on here, and I'll bet you the mayor will approve $2.8 million. So making that assumption, and most everybody's nodding their head, making that assumption, $500,000 will move how many weeks approximately? Because you never know, you might get more than 2.8 million. I know that's putting you on the spot, but just tell me it's going to move. If that only moves me a month, then I'm not too happy with that. How many road miles is 500K? 8.
It's on the list, I believe, but I would say, just going off memory, maybe 3 to 6 months. If I'm understanding your question.
Yeah, I'm on the 12-month list now. I give you another $500,000. Is that going to move me to 9 months? Going to move me to 6 months?
Yeah. You could, I guess you could average out the money over the course of a year and kind of do it that way, but it would move it up. I would say 3 to 6 months.
Okay, that's what I keep hearing. We give more money, the time on the list gets shorter.
That's right. Yeah, we could add. Theoretically, we would just add roads to the back end of the 3-year plan. That's
I guess what I'm saying, if I look at the 3-month, 6 months, 9-month, 12-month, and I think it went out to 36 months.
Right.
You're gonna get Bonita Parkway here in the next 4 weeks, according to Jared. Okay. So you get Bonita Parkway in Ward 4 finished in the next 4 weeks. and Shawnee comes up, that money's going to move that a little bit closer. And another street's going to move a little bit closer. And I'll just go ahead and mention Hidden Point, because that's basically how I'm talking about. They're on the 18-month list. They don't want to be on the 18-month list. So we give you another $500,000. Is that going to move them down to 12 months, 14 months?
Yes.
Anybody, not just Hidden Point, but any street that's on that 18-month list.
Yeah, everything on our list would be adjusted, based on the funding we received tonight.
Okay. I know there's no definitive time on that. That's hard there, but it's called getting a bang for your buck, to move those numbers. So I'm going to support this, obviously, but I'm really going to be looking at those lists and see how things move. That's and you never know, but I would hope everybody on here would vote for $2.8 million in the budget, unless there's something else that's going to be totally ridiculous in there. So, thank you.
Alderman
I'm ready to
Brown,
vote.
thank you. Alderman Petroleum, I want to entertain a motion to remove Dana Drive and replace it with Melanie Drive, the entirety of Melanie Drive. Do you want to make that motion?
If she doesn't, I will. And
Well, I
if
was going
she
to come to you
does,
for
I'll
a
second
second.
the
Welcome
motion.
back, Mr. Skidmore.
All right, thanks. I'm trying to get back in.
So, Alderman Skidmore, we see you and we can hear you by phone. Alderman Petroleum, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Oh,
You're
sorry.
muted.
Thank you.
There you go.
Mark, go ahead and make the motion and I'll second it.
Okay, that's awful kind of you. I'll make the so move on Melanie.
Second.
Motion is second to remove Dana Drive for the $500,000 list and insert Melanie Drive for the entirety of Melanie Drive. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Sorry, hold it. I'm sorry, 1 second. Go ahead.
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye. Thank you.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
That passes unanimously. Thank you, Annette. We're back to the main motion. All those in favor of approving first reading ordinance 2021-14 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Thank you, board. Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 ayes.
That passes unanimously. Thank you, Annette. Y'all, for 5 minutes, I'm not going to do anything. If y'all want to get up, stretch your legs, move around, and do something else, feel free. But I won't call on anybody or do any business until 9:20.
9:20. Okay. That should do it. Okay. Oh my God. Can you believe my computer? Okay, can you all hear me on TV?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mark.
Wonderful. I don't know what happened.
Well, Mark, we tried to delay things as much as possible because
Well,
having
listen,
a meeting
thank you
without
very much for all you did. I don't even know what happened. Did the ordinance pass? I mean, I voted for it, so I don't, you know.
No, we removed all roads from Ward 1.
Oh my God.
We
Oh
tried to
my
slip. We
God.
tried to slip that in on you while you were gone.
I am going to like live my birthday in the hospital tonight.
Okay.
Oh man.
That'd be a good birthday present. wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, right. I really don't. It just started going like crazy, and it just, and then it just shut down.
You can't hear you. Nope.
Yeah, gotta love technology.
I feel so terrible. Let me see if this works. Okay, that's Russ right there. See you. And there's Jamie. Okay, I'm beginning to see. This is maddening. You can look, I look like a mad scientist. Look at my hair.
Hey, I'm jealous of that head of hair of yours.
My grandfather, Pappy, had real hair like this.
I've been losing mine since high school, so never had much to begin with. So you're lucky.
Jason.
Yeah, I need to get it cut.
Mm.
Well, I'm not. All I can see is
Eddie, we're about ready.
City Hall.
Jason,
Steve,
ready?
are y'all getting ready?
Tina, are you ready?
Okay. Yes. As best as I can. Here we go. Oh, there it goes. Okay, great.
Tina, are we good to go?
Yes, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Next, we have Resolution 2021-10. This is a resolution to adopt a fund balance policy for the city of Hendersonville. Alderman Cunningham.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
and a second from Alderman Campbell. Alderman Cunningham, do you want to speak on this?
Well, pretty much, and I'm going to defer to Robert. Pretty much what it does is establish a fund policy for the city of Hendersonville that we were recommended to do by the auditors and also the state comptroller's office. And if we are going to dip into the general fund in any future ordinances, that it will be stated as part of the ordinance that we are doing just that. That pretty much sums it up, pretty much. Robert, do you have anything to add to that?
I could add, depends on how late you want to be here, but I'll give you the highlight.
The down and dirty.
Yeah, I'll give you the highlights just to say that a lot of this information is coming from GASB number 54, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, regarding fund balance reporting and governmental fund type definitions. And so a lot of the information we're clarifying, putting in some language to sort of show a first in, first out. And then we're also next, like Alderwoman Cunningham mentioned, that there is a provision in here. Two of the meats that you'll really want to be focused on is there is a stipulation that any amendment or budget ordinance that shall take the anticipated unassigned fund balance dropping below the minimum level will require language stating that this is what's occurring. So if an amendment to the budget this beginning next year, excuse me, would drop us below our minimum level, we would just state that in the ordinance, and that way all members are aware of what they're voting on. The second part that I figure will be the focal point is that the minimum level is being set at what is equivalent to 2 months worth of operating expenditures of current year budget. So that'd be 16.67%. And outside of that, that's the majority of this policy. There is some of that language is actually being stolen also, I want to say, from GFOA, the Governmental Finance Officers Association, and recommended there as well.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. Robert, I like what we've got here. Does this, if we pass this tonight, what impact does it have on our budget that we're setting right now?
So the start date for this resolution is July 1st. So that would not technically be in effect for a couple months. So technically it would be something to strive for, but I wouldn't say it has any impact.
Okay. Alderman Cunningham, since it doesn't have any impact, and I know I'm sounding like Mr. Defer tonight, I'm going to ask you how you feel about putting this off for 2 weeks, and this is why. Our new COO took a look at this before he even started work, and he had some thoughts on it, and some thoughts that might make the situation a little bit less painful. He is actually on his way right now. He and his brother are bringing 3 vehicles from California right now. We'll be in Hendersonville probably Thursday. He doesn't start work till next week, but he's already chimed in on a couple things, this being one of those. How do you feel about putting this off for 2 weeks, get his thoughts on it, which I think are some pretty good thoughts since he's already shared some with me?
Well, I have 2 other sponsors on this with me, Karen, Alderman Dixon and Alderman Collins. So would you be in agreement with that? Alderman Collins and Alderman Dixon?
Yes, I have no problem with waiting and letting him provide us his expertise on this.
Okay.
So, Alderman Cunningham, if you want to withdraw it, it's entirely within your hands. What happens next if we vote to defer it?
We could defer it. I mean, I don't have a problem with that since it won't be go into effect until our new fiscal year and our new fiscal budget.
Okay.
So I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay.
Alderman Collins, you okay too?
That's fine.
So,
All
Alderman Cunningham, since you're the only
Yeah.
sponsor listed on it, if you'd like to just say, I'll withdraw it until 2 weeks, then we don't have to take a vote on it.
Okay, well, I'll withdraw it for 2 weeks.
That moves us along faster. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Alderman Collins and Alderman Dixon as well. That moves us down to other agenda items for brief committee reports. Chairman Brown, General Committee.
Okay, there you go. All right, we met this evening. We approved from March 9th, 2021 General Committee meeting. We also passed Resolution 2021-20, resolution renaming Drakes Creek Park to the David J. Lamarb Athletic Complex at Drakes Creek Park 2-1. That will be coming before you in 2 weeks. We also moved Ordinance 2021-13 and an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Comprehensive Classification and Compensation Plan. That is E-Pay. That was discussed in Safety Committee meeting tonight, as well as in our committee meeting. And I do want to ask, and I should have did this earlier. I'm sorry, Mayor, it's going to take me a minute longer, but I would ask Mr. Taylor, he's still on the call, if he would prepare some information that could be put on our screen in 2 weeks concerning this, some of the questions that we've had, a graph or a PowerPoint, Chris, whatever you think would help us get through this. The reason I ask for that is because we have been talking about E-Pay. We passed an ordinance that we're trying to redo last October, 12-1. Most of this board was here at that time, except 3 of you. And I would tell you 3, please, I would tell everybody, please take time to talk to Chris, talk to Mr. Bradley, talk to your department heads about E-Pay. so you can fully understand it. And unless you all are much more brilliant than I, it is hard to absorb e-pay and what goes along with that. So just try to be very schooled in it between now and 2 weeks, or we'll be spending hours here with each other, asking questions and getting answers. So I would just try to do that in the next couple of weeks. I know Chris has been available. He'll be available again. Mr. Bradley's available. So please do that. Thank you for your indulgence there. Ordinance 2021-15, an ordinance rezoning the property located on the west side of Sanders Ferry Road and the north side of Cage's Bend. That ordinance failed 2-1. Resolution 2021-16 is to adopt and recommend Sumner County.
Alderman Brown,
Coordinating
excuse me,
Committee-
was that on Cage's Bend or Cages?
Cages, I'm sorry, did I say Cage's Bend?
Thank you.
It's on Cages Road. Sanders Ferry and Cages Road. Resolution 2021-16 is a resolution to adopt and recommend to the Sumner County Coordinating Committee an amendment to the City of Hendersonville urban growth boundary. The growth plans for Sumner County was ratified by the Hendersonville City Council pursuant to Chapter 1101 Acts of 1998. Now, if that doesn't mean anything, then Mr. Free can tell you what that is, but that would be before you in 2 weeks also. Resolution 2021-21, amending job classification list pay table for the Parks Department. Mr. Gilly has asked for a position there that has been open for 3 years to be filled. It does not affect this budget at all, but he will be asking for that in his next budget. We passed that unanimously. We passed the last resolution unanimously also. Resolution 2021-23, approving a final master plan for Belcher Landing. That was passed with a 2-1 vote. A resolution to approve a final development plan for Millstone. That was a 3-0 vote, unanimously passed. A resolution to approve a final development plan for that was Millstone, accepting the dedication of the completed streets in the Hunt Club Phase 9. That was passed unanimously. And then we adjourned. We got all that in 28 minutes, believe it or not. So thank you for your indulgence.
Chairman Brown, thank you. Chairman Campbell, Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yes, I will say that the General Committee did an excellent job getting through their meeting this evening. Just want to touch on a few things. The Public Safety Committee discussed tonight was red light synchronization and the impact it will have. I know that's a public works issue, but it's also a public safety issue because Hendersonville, as you know, Main Street from about midday through the evening now is pretty busy. And we discussed the number of accidents we had last year along New Shackle Island Road. There were 7. Imperial Boulevard had 8 accidents. This is all last year. And Old Shackle Island had 13, Walton Ferry 6, Sanders Ferry 17, Cherokee 9, and Indian Lake 18 accidents last year. This year at Imperial so far in Main Street, we already had 5 accidents right there. So we're on par to surpass the number from last year at that intersection. And we do feel like the red light synchronization is of utmost importance for the state to move forward, to help us get that moving, to help our traffic flow through our city, and just and the Walton Ferry Road realignment as well. I will say that. And then also we discussed e-pay from the police department and fire department perspectives and how it impacts their departments, and got some good information this evening from them. And also we had discussed their budget issues that they have before them. And like I said earlier, the police department will be asking for 20 cars because last year the cars were removed from their budget. The fire department is asking for $600,000 for the air pack system that they have out for a grant. Hopefully they'll get the grant, but it will need to be replaced next year. And also they have the police department's looking for 7 new employees, one being a detective and one being a sergeant for the night shift, reflect unit. He's a sergeant working nighttime. Then also we have the fire department asked for 3. They pulled out 3 from last year's budget. And if they get the SAFER grant though, where they're going to have the 15 new hires, they won't need those 3 positions, but they will need 1 for administrative inside the office up there. So those are just some of the budget items we discussed, and also the red light synchronization and e-pay. And I appreciate everyone's input this evening. Thank you.
Chairman Campbell, thank you. Next, we have Alderman Peterson, Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. The Planning Commission met last Tuesday, April the 7th, and we have elected new officers. It was Vanessa Silkwood is our vice chairman, Secretary Darlene Stringfellow, and Assistant Secretary is Tim Altsizer. And recommended approval for final development plans for Bellsford Landing and Millstone Phase 13. And we approved the final site plans for Aspen Dental, Brewster's Ice Cream, Jackson Townhomes, and 108 Jennings Drive is a homeowner who is dividing his lot and putting in 2 houses. And we approved the following preliminary plat is the Baird Farm. And rezoning of Cages Road Townhomes was denied. And we approved the resolution accepting the streets in Hunt Club Phase 9. And that was all of our minutes from the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Chairman Cunningham, Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. We had our special finance meeting tonight to discuss Resolution 2021-22, a resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation refunding capital outlay notes in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $8,610,000 of the city of Hendersonville, making provision for the issuance, sale, and payment of said notes, establishing the terms thereof, and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal of premium, if any, and interest on the notes. So in short, it's a refinancing of our debt. This is going to come before us in 2 weeks at BOMA, and we will be having a special presentation by Raymond James, our consultant that is involved with the refinancing of our notes. But just to give everyone a heads up, it'll be a savings of about $368,000 over a 9 or 10-year period, capital outlay notes. So that'll be a really good thing. And like I said, this will come before us in 2 weeks, and Raymond James will give us a really good, thorough presentation. And that is the end of my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Chairman Cunningham, thank you. Chairman Skidmore, Public Works Committee.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just only a couple of issues. One, tonight, as we passed already, that was the ordinance of 2021-14. We passed that in committee and recommended to the board for passage, and that passed. And then the one thing that's next on our agenda, really for the alderman for Ward 4 in that area over there, maybe possibly 5, I'm not real sure, is the cell tower. But it is important for the peninsula, for Indian Lake Peninsula. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be coming back with a contract to be discussed and to see how it'll affect those people. And lastly, I want to thank everybody that voted, regardless of how you vote. I'll know about it here shortly because my phone was just texting me like crazy when the computer went down. And Tina, I know you're not going to say anything, but thank you for giving me the process that needs to go through where I can talk on the phone until I was able to. And thanks for the break, Mayor. Appreciate that. And I just want to thank everybody. And in a way, it just shows you that we may not always agree and on issues, but we do when it comes and we realize things are important. We do care for each other up here as aldermen, and I do. I care for each and every one of you. Sometimes you don't think that we do, or I don't, and you may not me, and that's okay. I'm used to it, but I do care for you. And tonight showed me exactly, how we needed to work together. And actually we did. We worked together, and my computer's back on. I'm going to work on it instead of going out on my birthday. I'm going to work on the computer and see about it. And thank you for the constituency called me on the phone saying that they'd come over and help me with it and everything, but you never know, I may be giving you a call. Thank you, Mayor, and you all have a good 13th of April, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Alderman Brown, a quick question for Chairman Skidmore.
Yes, sir.
A quick
Yes,
question.
sir, Alderman Brown.
Not for Chairman Skidmore, but a quick question maybe for you.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Robertson. Is there any way that you could please put a capital projects report on there in 2 weeks? I'd like to know what's going on with the fire hall and the the roller rinks and stuff, getting those moved.
Yeah, I'll get with Alderman Campbell, and we'll kind of compare notes. If it's okay, Alderman Campbell, we'll do that, and we'll get it all set up for him. Not
Yes,
a problem.
sir.
Alderman Brown, thank
Whoever
you.
needs
Alderman
to do
Campbell,
it.
thank you.
Mr. Robertson's the capital chair, so just, I'd like to know what's going on in those. two
Oh,
projects.
I'm sorry. That's right. Yeah, we did vote.
Alderman Robertson.
He has shaken his head and said, yes, yes.
Sorry, Alderman Robertson. That's my fault.
We're fine. We're fine.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Alderman
Mayor.
Brown. Thank you, Chairman Skidmore. A couple things under my report. We talked a couple weeks ago about canceling our second meeting. Alderman Brown, I'm sorry, did I cut you off? Oh, okay.
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay. We had talked a couple weeks ago about canceling our second meeting in July and our second meeting in August. I'll make that motion that we go ahead and cancel our second meeting in July and second meeting in August for this year. I have a second from Alderman Waters. Any discussion on that? All those in favor of canceling the Board of Mayor and Alderman second meeting in July? I'm sorry, Alderman Petroleum.
Sorry, I couldn't get in there quick enough. My only concern would be is that if we wind up with a bunch of special call meetings because something urgent comes up, and then it kind of throws folks off schedule.
That's true.
That's the only concern I have. I'm happy with doing away with those meetings, but if we do have to have like a special call meeting, could we just schedule it for Tuesday night? Because I know a lot of us block out our work schedules so that Tuesday nights are free.
Makes sense.
So that would be my only comment. Thank you.
Makes sense. Okay. All those in favor of canceling our second meeting in July and our second meeting in August for this year, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
No.
Campbell,
No.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
No.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
10 ayes, 3 noes.
That passes unanimously. We also need to decide what we're going to do about our meetings after April. At this point, I think the best course of action is that we decide as a group that we're going to be meeting in person again. Of course, we have one more meeting in April. If the state legislature offers us something else, then we can decide that in April. But at this point, I think we need to be prepared to meet in person. So I'll make that motion that our meetings beginning of May are in person. A second from Alderman Robertson. Alderman Cunningham.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Well, this doesn't have a whole lot to do with just that, but what we just voted on, then that means we're not going to have a finance committee meeting for like 3 months?
Oh, that was just the board meetings. That's all it was. That was just the board meetings.
Oh,
Yeah, just the board meetings.
so we're going to have to, all right. So your motion right now is just for for BOMA or for the committee meetings too?
So the motion that passed was for the second BOMA meeting in July is now canceled. The second BOMA meeting in August is now canceled. What I've just made a motion, got a second from Alderman Robertson on, is that our board meetings and our committee meetings have to be live and starting May 1st.
In person.
Yeah, exactly, live and in person.
Well, I mean, I have a concern a bit. Can I speak to that, Mayor?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I have a concern about that, being on finance. If we're not having in-person meetings, the second meeting in July and the second meeting in August, could we still have a Zoom meeting for those
We don't know
particular
yet.
committee meetings?
We don't know yet because the general.
Oh, if it's not going to be passed by the governor?
Right.
Well, I'm going to reserve my vote then for that.
Okay. Alderman Edwards.
Okay, so your motion is to go ahead and have all in-person meetings starting in May?
Starting in May.
Why don't we just follow the directives of the governor and the state legislature? If they allow us to continue by Zoom, why don't we just continue what we're doing? And if they don't allow us, then we'll obviously have to go in person. What's wrong with doing that?
Quite frankly, what's wrong with doing that? In my opinion, it doesn't work well. We've heard from a lot of folks that want to they want to see the boards and committees meet again in person and want to attend those. I feel like we do a better job. We do better business for the city when we're meeting in person. And that's sort of exemplified by some of the problems. We've overcome a lot of problems, that's for sure, with the help of our T folks. But I feel like we have better meetings and better input and do a better job overall conducting ourselves when it's live and in person.
Well, I mean, it's hybrid now. Anybody can go. The alderman can choose to go there live, and anybody can go and watch it live. So I don't think I can support this because of that. I think we need to continue what we're doing unless we're not allowed to do so by the governor and state legislature.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Petroleum.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I support Alderman Edwards' statements on that. I was going to make an amendment just to keep it on hybrid, to have that option. Some folks are not fully vaccinated yet, out in the community. Some are not comfortable coming into City Hall yet, or any public, maybe a little bit longer transition. I think hybrid is a good option. I know it's not, the smoothest or the easiest, but I don't think that they're going to go much longer.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
I was just going to mention, getting back to the committee meetings again, can't we leave it up to the committee themselves, whether they want to meet in person or Zoom, if we're allowed to?
We could do that if you want to make that amendment.
Well, I don't know if the amendment is appropriate because I don't even know if we're allowed to or not.
Well, we
at
don't
this
either.
point.
At this point,
No?
we've got to be prepared to meet in person at the end of April. I know this, that the state employees, the governor has required the state employees to be back in their offices on May 3rd.
Well, they have a separate office, each of them. Yeah, I'm gonna not have to support this right now. I would wait until what we hear from the State House about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. So the motion and second is that beginning in May, that our committee and our board meetings are live and in person. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
No.
Campbell,
No.
Collins,
No.
Cunningham,
No.
Dixon,
Yes.
Edwards,
No.
Hayes,
No.
Peterson,
Yes.
Petrelli,
No. No.
Oh, your thing.
Robertson.
No. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
Let me change my vote. I
Oh.
vote in favor of the motion.
Okay, in favor of the motion. Okay, thank you. Skidmore,
Yes.
Waters,
Yes.
and Clary.
Yes.
Six yes, 7 no.
That fails. Alderman Peterson.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn and a second from Alderman Waters. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye. Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
I didn't hear. Okay, thank you. Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Robertson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Thank you, Peg. And I vote aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
13 yes.
Annette, thank you. That passed unanimously. Annette, thank you for your help. Jason, thank you for your help. Mary Beth and Tina, thank you for your help. Happy birthday, Alderman Skidmore. You all have a good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Mayor.
It's 5 o'clock tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Happy birthday, Skidmore.
Thank you, buddy.
Man.
No